The nation's highest court hearing arguments on a case that could reshape how courts across the country handle immigration cases and, at its core, challenge a principle older than the Constitution itself: birthright citizenship. Justices appear divided, with conservative members questioning whether Congress intended for lower courts to have such oversight. Liberal justices expressing concern that narrowing jurisdiction could leave individuals with no clear path to defend their constitutional rights.
There are 680 district court judges, and they are dedicated and they are scholarly, and I'm not impugning their motives in any way, but sometimes they're wrong.
Let's just assume you're dead wrong. Does every single person that is affected by this EO have to bring their own suit?
Our state is leading the challenge against the Trump administration to protect birthright citizenship. And joining us live tonight to break down what is at stake is our state Attorney General, Nick Brown. Thanks for being with us, Attorney General.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So what is Washington's role in this national legal fight, and why did you take the lead?
Well, we filed the first case the day after the president's executive order trying to redefine our Constitution and redefine what it means to be an American in this country. So we were the first to file suit, had an immediate hearing here in Seattle in the Western District of Washington, and successfully received a temporary restraining order directing the Trump administration to put down their pens and not move forward with this executive order. We then got a preliminary injunction, which had a nationwide effect, essentially telling the administration that they could not implement this order anywhere in the country. We joined a coalition of 3 other states. In this case, there was a separate action brought by our partners in New Jersey with another coalition of about 18 states. But our cases continued to move forward. And I thought it was important for Washington to lead because, one, the president's action was so clearly unconstitutional. It was causing direct harms to people in Washington. Babies that would be born in our state on a monthly basis could essentially be without a country, without protections that a country's citizenship provides. And also it was going to cause harm to our state, because when the federal government no longer was going to play a role in citizenship for a number of people born in this country, it would have put a burden on our state and any other state to do a lot of services on behalf of those people and account for their well-being, and we just couldn't abide by that action.
Now, I have 2 key questions I really want to get in the time we have. One of them is, as you know, Justice has spent a lot of time debating whether lower federal courts should have the authority to issue nationwide injunctions against presidential executive orders. Should they, and what are the benefits?
Well, this is actually a fairly bipartisan concern. Both conservative and more liberal justices and judges across the country have really struggled about the appropriateness of nationwide injunctions. And essentially what that means is the power of one judge to, universally stop actions across the country. And so I think that was a shared concern amongst the justices yesterday in the argument. It was a pleasure to be in the court and hear the arguments yesterday. In this particular case, it seems fairly absurd, frankly, to not have a nationwide impact, because essentially what the Trump administration is asking the court to do is say that a person born in Washington might be granted citizenship because we participated in this case, but someone born directly to our east in Idaho would not be an American citizen. Or even more sort of strangely, that someone born in Washington would be an American, but the second they cross the border into Idaho might lose their citizenship. And so in this particular case, a nationwide injunction seems particularly appropriate. And that was the focus of the argument yesterday, not really the merits of the case, the foundational question about birthright citizenship, but really more focused on the appropriateness of scope of nationwide injunctions.
And that leads me to the other key question I want to ask you. Justice Barrett asked why the administration wasn't seeking a review of the order's constitutionality rather than focusing on the injunctions. Should the court address the merits of the full order, or is the injunction issue more urgent?
Well, I think that the court should take up the merits of the full order as soon as possible. I mean, the idea about nationwide injunctions is very important. But in this particular case, the uncertainty around whether or not birthright citizenship is going to continue, I think really demands action as soon as possible by the court. And this was a concern that was addressed by some of the most conservative justices, including Justice Alito, who during the argument really pressed the Department of Justice, the Solicitor General's office, to say, essentially, what is the point of these proceedings when we know we might just be back here eventually? Why not getting to the heart of the issue? Chief Justice Roberts sort of said the same thing. As you know, Justice Barrett was really struggling with that as well. So I do think it's important that we get there as soon as possible so the country has certainty about this. And I have to say, this is not an unsettled legal position. It's been the law of the land for about 150 years. Multiple Supreme Courts have weighed in on this issue, but now the Supreme Court's going to have to weigh in again.
And then finally, I think more broadly, if you can tell us, in what ways has the Trump administration, in your view, threatened civil rights and protections, and why do Washingtonians and really all Americans need to be paying close attention?
Well, unfortunately, I think it's a really long list. And in the 4 months that President Trump has been back in office, we're seeing time and time again a real disregard for the Constitution. And I don't say that lightly. I think that's a really serious thing to accuse the president of doing. But time and time again, his orders are disregarding Supreme Court precedent, disregarding the separation of power, trying to take full executive branch control of issues that haven't been within their control, like voting rights, like dismantling the Department of Education. You know, we've brought now 19 cases and only do so when we think the legal issues are pretty clear and the harm to Washingtonians is very clear. But that is what we've seen from this president in his first 5 months. He doesn't care about the rule of law or precedent or separation of powers. And we need to make sure that we reaffirm that no one person is above the law, and even the president.
Attorney General Nick Brown, out of time, but so grateful for your time, and we hope to have you back soon. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Anytime. Thank you very much.